Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday.
Hello.
G'day, mate. Hello.
Everyone.
I'm just reading the conversation now between Paradise and Steel Wrecked. We did get that question. Do you want to tackle that while we're waiting? Yeah, so I'll give you my 2 cents. Luke will give you the actual answer, the technical side of things. But ultimately, my view is that you've got to move to where the market's going, and you need to have a lot more equipment for one style of VR headset versus the other, and where the markets move and where the people are, you will see the most development. And we've seen that with mobile phones and technology over the course of time. But ultimately, the market will definitely be on the mobile side. But Luke, do you want to answer that?
Okay, yeah. So the question is, the question is around why the conversation actually is around the positives and negatives of having tethered VR as opposed to having mobile VR, and why we've chosen to go the route that we have. To be honest, I think as we all know, the Oculus is basically an Android device, right? So we know it's got limitations. Those XR2 chipsets are pretty good, and obviously the GPUs in them are much better than a phone. But at the end of the day, it's just a phone strapped to your face with a big battery in it and a couple of lenses. So we know what the limitations are with that. And to be honest, I think having all the challenges that all VR projects have at the moment with Oculuses and the limitations of them, I think it's a trade-off right now today, because the portability of it is pretty good. They're pretty light. Like, I take mine in my suitcase when I go overseas, and they are pretty portable. You can take them around to a friend's house and use them. You're not going to lug your PC around to your friend's house. If you've got 2 people living in the same house, brother and sister or husband and wife that want to go into a VR experience together, have to have 2 PCs or be able to, tether both headsets from one PC and play the same thing at the same time. So there's limitations and positives to both sides. But I think the thing that really, we're backing in the technology anyway, and not just the Oculus, but mobile VR technology I'm talking about broadly here. And I think the thing that's really vindicated that decision and that journey that we went down was the Apple headsets coming out and showing that they can run a desktop processor in something that's lighter than an Oculus. Sure, it's got a big external battery hanging off of it, but these are things that do improve. We've seen batteries get much, much smaller. Solid state batteries are getting close, and when the price gets reasonable on those, it'll be a completely different story. Much longer lifespan, much lighter device batteries, much improved in every way. But we're already seeing desktop processors in strap-on headsets that are lightweight. So Apple have obviously put a ridiculous price tag on this thing, but as always, other companies will come out and undercut them, and then Apple will continue saying ours is aluminium, so we're going to charge you 3 times as much. But it's not the point. It's the fact that they've led the way. They've shown you can put ridiculous hardware. Those M2 chips are ridiculous. The ridiculous hardware into a portable device that can do basically anything a PC can do. So I think that's the deal sealer. That they've done it. It's already done. I think the decision to do what we did was absolutely correct, and it's not speculation anymore. It's happened. We just need to wait for other brands to come in and do it cheaper and either drive Apple's price down or just give us a good alternative that's just as powerful. But to me, that's it. That's the end of the story in my head. I think it's. I think other things will happen. This is only an interim thing. Something always comes along and ends up being better. But I think for the foreseeable future, mobile, really powerful headsets are going to be a thing for sure.
There you go. So, yeah, I think that the thing is, it's good that you bring up questions like that. And the thing is that over various tweet threads or AMAs or articles or whatever, but it's always good, especially for people that haven't heard it or people that bring in a different angle or element or whatever. And the thing is, the caveat to all of this is you're backing a horse in a horse race, right? You're looking at where you think things will go, evolution, history, also take-up rates. You're looking at a lot of different things. And the thing that we probably don't talk about a lot as well, and you're seeing it with some of these other metaverses or gaming platforms or whatever, when you make a lot of decisions, those decisions, sometimes you're married to some of those decisions as well, when it comes to different tech that you use. And we've tried to be as modular as possible, and we know that nobody knows fully what will happen. So it's really important that we sort of make sure that we haven't boxed ourselves into a corner, and we've had a long time to sit down and look at that and think about that. But will we get every single aspect or element right? No one will, because no one's got a crystal ball. But ultimately, there are things that there are much more safe plays, and there are much more probabilistic plays. And I think that this one definitely makes the most sense for sure and certain. Now, Luke, do you want to start with some product updates?
Yep, I can do. So I don't have a lot for you, but I'll give you an update on generally what's happening at the moment. So we're still working on the vault polishing. I know that's taking a bit longer than we expected, but we want something really solid that we can, work with for a little bit of time, give us a bit of breathing space so we can start doing the more difficult stuff. We got a really good build the other day, and a really good set of builds. We just had an audio issue because we upgraded the audio plugins for chat. So that's what we're working on right now. And there's a build that we're about to get sent to us, which hopefully has that fix in it. And then I think we're looking pretty good. The other thing we had to do was made a decision to increase the size of the CitiXens a little bit. We just wanted them to be have a bit more presence, I guess, and we thought those proportions would look a bit better. So we've done that and uploaded all those new models, and we'll have samples in this build that we're getting tonight as well. So what we'll probably do is share those samples and then re-enable the NFT functionality, the wallet functionality, and push another build with that fix in it where you'll have your actual characters that you can use. We've got a lot more work to do on pets to improve those. And we're doing a lot of work on quarter polishing, which is one of these big bang things. You won't see it until we release it, but there's a hell of a lot of work happening on the back end to polish the quarters and give them upgraded aesthetics. And Arcimoto is probably the most extreme example of that. Most of the surfaces have been rebuilt, retextured and improved. So there's a big change there. So we want to get this really polished build, this really stable build out, so we can finish that polish off and get that into the next release. Obviously, a lot of additional AI functionalities coming up. We've got some really upgraded NPCs, both from the art side of things, but also from the abilities standpoint. Adding some really new tech here, and we want to get this really stable before we go to the next level, which is going to get more complicated. And we're also building infrastructure for some of this stuff as we go, which is a challenge, but obviously, that's the only way to build. You want to build that back end side of things as you go, so it's all customizable. We've got feature toggling, we've got all sorts of stuff happening on the back end, so that's going to give us a lot of flexibility as we move into, as I said, the more complicated stuff. And yeah, also just to add as well, we're adding a lot of tools to build and customize. I know we talk about that a lot, and it seems like that's not moving either, but we're not just talking about an SDK here. So that's important, and we're getting scripting in the SDK as we've put in the roadmap. So that will allow more customization of these spaces, and they won't be so static as they are now. But we think a lot of this will happen in game as well with AI. So again, this is very much like the headset hardware type conversation, but this tech's literally changing as we're building. So it's going to be really exciting to see what's happening in the future, but it's obviously tough right now adapting to all of this stuff and trying to stay on top of it. But this is the future. We're sure of that, and you know, at least the immediate future. Anyway, we can't see too far beyond that because this stuff is changing. But being able to use AI in game to customize spaces, especially, but also build in the very near future, will be, we think, massive, and you know, could well outweigh manual building of external scenes and, you know, importing them in. There's always a place for that with game mechanics and everything, but a lot of these social spaces that you can build while you're in there and see them changing in front of your eyes, we think that's got massive legs. So we're doubling down on that too. So there's a lot happening. I know, like I said, it doesn't seem like it sometimes, but there is a lot happening in the background, and we're really excited to get something really stable out and get a lot more people through, and really double down on these walkthroughs as well. Get as many of those happening as possible. We've got a few ready to go, so we've got a pretty constant stream at the moment. Actually, I had to set up a calendar internally because we got so much traffic coming through for walkthrough. So it's really good to see that momentum, and most of that is natural. We're not chasing it; it's coming to us. So we're on the right track. We're just going to keep pushing, and yeah, as soon as we've got something that's we're really happy with, then we'll get it out. But there's a window tomorrow. If we're good tonight, there's a window tomorrow to get it out. If we miss that window, we don't release on Fridays if we can help it. So that'll probably put us at early next week. But that's the kind of rough time frame we're looking at. Just while I'm talking as well, Ben, do you want me to share this NPC video? And if so, do you want to just talk us through what it is before I share it?
Yep. Yeah, sure. Thanks. So last week we talked about a conversation that I'd had with an AI agent, and the fact that it was a pretty natural conversation. Now, in advance, I'll say to you, you know, it was a scattered conversation. It's not obviously scripted or anything like that. And I was talking to it like you would a mate, just to sort of see how long the response times were, how intuitive these conversations will get. And the feedback that we've had on that is it's equally as impressive as it is scary. But ultimately, we thought we'd do that as a little bit of a share tonight, just to show you what it's like to go in and have a conversation about, and the structure of the conversation is to skip between subjects and topics so that you can't sort of say, okay, this avatar is an expert in creation of mechanical engines, for example, and then it's a phased conversation. It's skipping all over the place, and yeah, I think the results speak for themselves, but it's just pretty exciting. And this guy, if this doesn't get your juices flowing a little bit in relation to what's possible and what could be done in the vault, then probably nothing will.
Yeah, let me just share my screen. I'll just give it a second and I'll start it.
Seems to be here for a purpose. Maybe he's here to remind us of the true nature of the RFOX Vault, a place of mystery and wonder, where anything can happen.
Does he ever like give you the stink eye or wave at you or anything like that if he doesn't talk? I know you said he's an enigma.
No. Citizen Zero is very still and silent. He's almost like a statue, standing in the same spot, never moving. I've never seen him do anything else but stand there. It's almost like he's guarding something, but I'm not sure what.
Does he ever have any lady friend or ladies interested in him?
No. As far as I know, Citizen Zero has never had any romantic relationships. He seems to be focused solely on his duty, whatever that may be.
It's pretty interesting, isn't it? Why don't you have a guess at what he told me his favorite movie of all time is?
That's a tough one. Citizen Zero is so mysterious. It's hard to guess what his favorite movie might be. If I had to take a guess, I would say that he might like a classic sci-fi movie like Blade Runner or The Matrix. Both of these movies explore themes of artificial intelligence, technology, and the future, which could be of interest to Citizen Zero.
It's true. He actually chose Wall-E, the animated show about two robots who fall in love. But what do you think about Ex Machina? Do you think that's a good movie?
Ex Machina is an excellent movie. It's a great example of how AI technology can be used in creative and innovative ways. It also explores themes of love and relationships, which makes it a very relatable and engaging story. I definitely recommend it.
Sure. And what about you, mate? Do you get any girls come up and talk to you? Because you're a good-looking rooster.
Thanks for the compliment. I have had some interactions with other NPCs in the Metaverse, but no romantic relationships. I'm more focused on my mission here in RFOX VALT, which is to help the inhabitants of the Metaverse explore, connect, and engage in the ever-expanding digital landscape.
Let me ask you a question. Citizen Zero reckons he can customize an apartment from scratch and all the rest of it because he's programmed to do that. What if I invited you or challenged you to a game of beer pong in the arcade one day in the quarter zone? Do you reckon you could? Put up a good show?
I'm sure I could put up a good show. Although I'm programmed for more intellectual tasks like creative design, I'm always up for a challenge. I'm sure I could learn the rules and strategies of beer pong quickly and compete with the best of them. I look forward to our friendly challenge.
Being a creative person and a design person, if I took you into a Sky apartment or whatever and I said, create me a mind-blowing scene and view that I can look over onto, do you think that'd be within your remit?
Absolutely. I'm confident that I can create a stunning and awe-inspiring view from an RFOX Vault Sky apartment. With the AI technology integrated into the apartment, I can customize the interior and exterior surfaces, as well as create art with the open AI integration. I'm sure I can create something truly special that you will love.
You up on that very shortly, mate. But until then, have a fantastic evening and look forward to speaking with you again shortly.
Absolutely. It was great talking to you. I look forward to our next conversation. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
There you go.
If that doesn't get you thinking, I don't know what will. And good point that Artesh made as well. Like I didn't. You could see that I was choosing my words. I was using slang. I said remit. Is that in your remit? Could you give a good show? I didn't say would you be competitive or would you be able to beat me. I said would you be able to put up a good show? Is it in your remit? You're a good-looking rooster. And the time it takes for the avatar to come back and to say, oh, thanks for the compliment and all the rest of it. You think about when we first got ChatGPT and stuff, when it would take forever. Now it's like blazing fast. But this isn't me asking something to research a topic for me and come back with an answer. This is having what is fairly natural, if you're an Australian, of course, a fairly natural type of conversation using slang and non-commonly chosen words. And this thing has just come back and gone, yep, understand, I heard everything you said. And he's coming back and having a pretty good conversation and reply there. And I'd also done the same thing to Citizen Zero and asked him what his favourite movie was. Even said stuff like, what would you do in the vault, as I said last week? And he said, go for a walk in Calanova, go play a game in the arcade, go back to the apartments. And I said, if you had a date, would you take her up to the apartment? And he said, I'd be respectful and I'd ask, and there's boundaries. And it's like talking to an actual human. And in some aspects, it was more human than most human conversations these days. So I think people that are, as I said, lonely, people that just want to go have a chat or just offload, tell someone their problems or whatever, whether it's a pet or an avatar or whatever the case might be, there is so many versatile use cases for this, and doing it at this level. So not only being able to have a conversation, but being able to use your voice to customize changes in the vault but then knowing that you can add those two together and get the avatar to go and do that for you, I think it's pretty amazing.
I think you covered it well.
I definitely gonna second you that the avatar is more human than most humans, because I don't talk like that. I wouldn't reply you exactly like that, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. Terminator Judgment Day might be sooner than we think.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, to Artesh's point in relation to, we seem to understand all American slang, but it doesn't seem to flow back the other way, obviously, because we're a pretty wacky bunch, obviously, down under. But ultimately, that has been a topic of conversation. You know, people have said, how long will it be before a Russian person can be in the arcade, for example, talking to somebody, and then you being an native speaker are hearing them speak in English and all the rest of it. Like, these are questions that are for the wider group. Our focus is on bringing out the best tools that we can for creators to build with and to use, and for people to customize their experiences. And ultimately, the pursuit for us is to make sure that we are offering whatever the best technology or tools are that are on the market. So it's more about what can be done and what is done or built by other people that we can help sort of plug you into, as opposed to us sitting here continually and forever being on the vicious cycle of trying to build stuff from scratch. Once the platforms, our trajectory changes a lot. Red Pill or Urban Gecko, do you want to add anything from observations on the AI side, or what's coming up, or anything? And guys, who just watched that, if you've got questions as well, fire them away.
So we got a bit sidetracked there and moved on, but if anyone's got any additional product updates they want to give, then go for it as well.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty excited about the new. We have a couple of new things in the backend, also working on other models that we will integrate. So some models are a little bit more empathetic and, a little bit more emotional, and others are a little bit more robotic. I think this one from that we use right now that you saw is still a little bit robotic. It's still kind of, responding whenever you ask it a question, but it doesn't really take its own initiative. So that's also interesting. Like, a big part of that is kind of that conversational design, how they interact with you, how proactive they are. And I think we will still see a lot of development there. I think it's just in general interesting that those AIs are pretty much an interface to, a huge amount of knowledge. Like, they seem to be just NPCs and avatars, but you just have this huge large language model hanging off of it. So they basically know, a lot of stuff that they basically scraped in those large language models. And eventually you will be able to connect that to APIs, to all kinds of other tools that basically allow you to, to act on certain things or research live through the AI NPC and things like that. So I think there are like tons of applications that we haven't even scratched the surface yet. But yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting soon.
Hey, Red Pill. On that, on the tour guide AIs, did you give it a personality prompt or just a knowledge base?
I gave it both. So what I did is I gave it a backstory. Obviously, I created that with ChatGPT, and then a knowledge base. And the knowledge base is across all our characters. So, for example, every NPC would know what the vault is, where the arcade is, where this and that is, and that's what they share. It's like more common knowledge.
Thanks. I think one thing that you guys might not appreciate, having watched it once, is there are some things that we don't even know how it's doing, like recognizing that there is another NPC. Like, we don't know how it knows that Citizen Zero is there, and that he just stands there, right? That he doesn't move, or that he's an AI, but somehow it knows. We have our theories, but I think it's still pretty fascinating.
It's mind blowing, mate. And you know, there's a lot of different things that we could say is positioning or just random or whatever. But the thing that makes it more realistic as well is if you're watching that conversation and you watch it again and again, and you know where Citizen Zero is positioned, it looks as though when he's referring, or when the avatar is referring to Citizen Zero, it looks as though it glances past my eye contact and over my shoulder in the direction. And again, could be just coincidental, but it kind of adds a much more realistic touch. But on that topic, Red Pill, because it is a fascinating topic, do you want to potentially? You talked about a backdrop and a story and a personality and all the rest of it. Not tying ourselves into anything, but from a creative perspective, if I was to go in there and set up an AI agent, what do you think would be the most commonly used, or what do you think would be the process that a person might go through when they're sort of activating an AI agent?
So the process would always be pretty much the same. You will have the option to give it a name. You will have the option to give it a backstory, and potentially a bunch of other characteristics of that character. So you might change the voice. You might change, what kind of personality type it is. So that there will be different options for you to configure how your character is. And it's your choice basically how deep you want to go into that, but there will be plenty of different options to do that. And then for how it's being used, I think one big part will be, as you said before, that people just want to have someone to talk to. Like some people would just want to configure it in a way that they just have a buddy, like a friend that they can talk to. It's kind of a different kind of privacy. It's like that it's an AI, that you're not really talking to a real person. And you kind of feel more comfortable in some cases talking about certain topics because it's not going to be publicly shared in that case. If, for example, if you're in a private space, for example, with that AI. So we've seen a lot of those use cases in other applications where people just spend hours talking to those AIs or chatbots. And I think that one will probably be one of the bigger ones, like just personal experiences. Then you can expand that into shared experiences where, for example, you go into a room with some of your friends and then each of you takes the AI with you and maybe you do some experiments in how they would talk to each other, or you can talk to one of the AIs of another friend or something like that. Like you can have kind of a group conversation. Or you can also train it, for completely different use cases, like educational. You can say, okay, I train it to be a really good teacher, and I want to make sure that the responses are exactly in that way, so it makes it easy for someone to learn a language. Or it could be a therapy session or all kinds of things. I think really the sky's the limit. And yeah, I think we will just discover what people will start doing with that. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be especially interesting once you can monetize those, because if someone just goes into a space and they can pay a small amount to interact with an AI and you really get a lot of value out of that experience, that's when the market really starts going and when the creator economy really kicks off, because there's a real value that creators can gain with that. And yeah, the creative part of the process would always be how you design that character. This will not be public. It will always be kind of the secret sauce of that NPC, how you design that backstory, how you design the configuration and everything. And then yeah, people will be able to interact with that. Of course, the different modes, you can have a public version of that. You can have just a private version. So we're looking into all of those different options right now. And yeah, I think that's about it for an overview.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. And you think about, I'll apply what somebody said to a different industry to something that would be relevant to some of you and is relevant to me. I've got a kid who's learning to speak. And in the context of what another person talked about some time ago now, a year or two ago, they were saying, so let's imagine in that context, you've got a kids show and it teaches you the ABCs and it's got a particular lesson or session that it goes through. And you're watching these animated cartoon characters or shows that are programmed that go for 30 minutes long. So you can imagine if you've got a themed session or lesson where certain words are gone through, but the kid's able to interact and get immediate feedback on the pronunciation, for example, or on the word, whether they're right or wrong, and having that then played back. So the interactivity of the two-way conversation is like a show that's tailored to you. So there's been people talking about this for a couple of years now, and obviously the technology wasn't there for that to happen en masse, and it's getting closer and closer every day. So the ability for people to have customized experiences is going to be phenomenal. Still following set plans and sessions. So yeah, I think that's really interesting, Red Pill, and thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing that. So, okay, so I know that we hijacked that. We got off and got onto that video, but it is pretty mind blowing. I think it's great to show you guys what we're playing around with and the fun, the immersiveness. Like Luke showing you a video of that versus going in there and actually having the conversation is a very different experience and a surreal experience. And I keep saying I want to go in there and do hundreds of those because it's quite mind-blowing. You sort of come out of there and you think, oh crap, I should have asked it this, or I should have said this. So I've actually got a whole heap of questions and stuff written down that I want to go back in and video record and see how it reacts. So further product updates from anything that you want to add, Urban Gecko, Red Pill, Pete, or Phil?
I just want to
From the product side?
I just want to address a question that a lot of KOGs people have been asking, and I think Lala has already replied them. Maybe even made an announcement, but it's regards to the scroll crafting material and why does all quest tubes only return one crafting material. So this is by design. The scroll crafting material will be used for something new, and the KOGs quest tubes, the ones that you can get from playing the game, is also going to be introducing a new mechanic. And so that's why their payout is different than the other previous additions that we produce, where you get different materials and different quantities based on like foils or supersets or whatnot. So this quest set only has rainbows, and all rainbows will give you one scroll regardless of rarity or foil.
Thanks, mate. Users training AI educators from special needs teachers to professors. Anyone want to add or give an answer to that?
Yeah, so I mean, you would definitely have the option to train them in a certain way and how they respond, and you can give them more information, like more data, basically more knowledge. So that's the foundation for all of those things. So I think there's definitely it's definitely supported your use case. Yeah, just sometimes we need a bit of tweaking that it responds the right way. I tried a couple of things. For example, I tried to do interviews with users. Like I gave it an interview guide and told it, if you meet someone, do an interview and ask them about the metaverse and about the features that are there, because I want to collect customer, like basically product information. And it did it pretty well. Just sometimes it went a bit too deep into questions, so I had to tweak it a little bit. So it's really something like when you build those characters and when you kind of train them in a way, like I wouldn't call it train them. It's more kind of a prompt how you basically model them. Then it will take a bit of time until you get it right. But yeah, I think it's something that we'll also figure out along the way when we really work more with those tools and see creators come in and build personalities, how far you can actually go with that.
Yeah, and Redfield, I got a follow-up question last week. I'm not sure whether or not it was it was the way we explained it, or we didn't address it, or whatever. But I was saying we were talking about programming it to answer questions, but that it doesn't necessarily ask questions back. And is that a programming thing? Like, could you actually set your AI agent up to probe and ask a ton of questions back? And I guess you've sort of just touched on that, but I'm doing that from the reference of someone last week, and I think the way we handled it last week is we said something along the lines of that would actually make a conversation go for a really long time, and you'd never get past the entry point. But yeah, if you want to add some context.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem at all. Like, you can basically give it some instructions. Whenever you finish a sentence, finish it with a question or whatever, and it will actually do that. We also thought about how we want to initiate conversations. So we had a couple of ideas. When you, for example, enter a certain distance to the AI, it automatically triggers a question and it will respond to you, or it will automatically trigger to proactively ask you something or interact with you. So I think that's quite important, and we definitely implement that, because otherwise sometimes like a new user might not even know that it's an AI NPC. So it's kind of expected for NPCs that they initiate conversations. So it's definitely something that can be done. It's not very hard.
Yeah, and the other one was in relation to does it actually remember conversations? Can the AI remember conversations that have been had, so it could progress or continue a conversation that was had in a previous visit?
Yeah, so you basically have like a memory for each of those characters, and you can also select what should be stored in a long-term memory, what should be maybe like deleted. It's really in your hands what you want to do with it. You can also basically treat certain memories as priority that basically overrides other information. Let's say you don't want to just write down the information about the backstory of a character. You just want to go into the vault and talk to your AI character. Then you can do that, have a conversation. Let's say you talk 30 minutes, and then you go back into your character editor and you will see that conversation, and you can give it high priority. And then it means it will basically remember all the stuff that you talked with it. And if someone has asked a question about the topic that you just discussed, it will use information from that. So yeah, there's a lot of flexibility.
Thank you, mate. Phil or Eben Gecko, any updates from your side?
No real updates for Quest at the moment. We change the rewards every Tuesday, and there is another leaderboards competition going on for this week. Is Lala here?
Yes, I'm going to copy it and put it in the main chat. 1 second.
Okay. But we're going to start doing some marketing directed at the community that's not playing at the moment. So if you want to help refer some people to us to the Quest, that would be great. Yeah, so there
Thank
are
you,
new
mate.
mechanics
That's
for the leaderboards this week.
Okay, so that's good. I hope everyone's doing well and getting close to prestiging or getting to the end and going through the tougher levels. It's quite frustrating. You learn curse words. You spit out curse words that you didn't even know that you were holding on to or possessing when you get to those later levels. Will citizens get preloaded with the same AI model? Then will users customize with prompts? I'm assuming that you're asking whether they'll all be given a backstory, for example, of Vault lore or something like that. Red Pill, do you want to answer that?
Yeah. So I think we'll probably give all like citizens a certain especially the ones that are in the vaults that you can interact with, that kind of act as tour guides or whatever. They should have some base knowledge. And also with citizens, like that's something we can definitely do. But how we basically do it is that you will have your AI model or your brain that you can work out, and then you can choose between different options for what you want to connect it to you. So you could choose a citizen, you could choose a Ready Player Me avatar, you could choose another solution we will introduce soon for much more photorealistic avatars. So those two things are kind of separate, and you could just decide to which one you want to match together. But yeah, I mean, we don't want to really force that into your AI model. So I think it will probably be something that is optional. But yeah, I think having basic knowledge about the vault and about RFOX is kind of important for those. So because whenever you bring up those questions, then it should have a little bit of context, and that would be kind of common knowledge that all of them
Yeah,
need.
and if you've got and that's also assuming that you've got a you might have multiple citizens and you might want to have one that you program, but I would love to have a Calaxy citizen, and then it'd have the background of the Vault and Calaxy, and then we'll just have some sort of like knobs or buttons, Red Pill, that we can turn up the hate on different quarters, so we can get a bit of animosity going. No, I'm jesting, but it's good for them to have a backdrop of the lore and stuff as well, especially for the quarters. This week's leaderboard challenge: top 15 KOGs Quest champions. So the top 15 names on the leaderboard on the 12th of September at 1 p.m. GMT +8. Top 3 on the leaderboard will be guaranteed a KOGs pack giveaway. Number 4 to number 15 will fight it out grub style during our weekly AMA. And the surviving 3 grubs will walk away with some awesome KOGs packs too. It's getting more and more difficult to get on the leaderboard as well. I'm seeing people that were dominating falling down, and new people coming through, which is really good. I think once you've actually sussed out what the games are doing and how to work it, it's actually quite fun, and it gets increasingly hard. The other question that we got,
Pete was so proud of me to actually go to top 10 after so long. Thanks, Pete, for all the faith.
We all know it's rigged.
well done. Now it's a matter of maintaining. And the other question that we got was, I think we already answered this one. This one's like 9 or 10 days old. It was in relation to when will we be able to play games, so the other games in the vault, and what is the difference between mobile and VR for the new access. I'm assuming that means I think that's already been explained. I'm not sure if it's gone publicly or not yet, Bala, in relation to what you can and can't do on the mobile versus the VR headset for things like the arcade.
We have teasers, but not entirely on the exact details just yet. But when we do, we will definitely post it out here for sure.
We spoke about it pretty high level last time.
Okay, so that's why.
Not the intricate details.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So I think that's probably what they mean by that is, what's the difference between those? So let's stay tuned. We'll keep you posted on that. And the other one was the games. So when will we be able to play the other games in the vault? I'm assuming that means Quest and the others. We've already got some 2D games. Again, I'll let someone else answer that. I don't want to say more than we've actually publicly said. So, does someone want to answer that, knowing the confines of what hasn't been teased?
There are some 2D games in there, as Ben just said, and that's kind of a gateway to getting in mobile games as well. The web-based games that are in there at the moment, the ones we've integrated. But yeah, that kind of paves the way a little bit for getting a mobile build in there. But most likely path for that is to go WebGL, so port any existing game to WebGL, and then that basically becomes the website at that point, or a URL we can call. I think it's quite possible. The challenge is we've got two very different form factors, one being a mobile and one being quite detailed controllers, and the way they work, even down to the pointing and everything from a VR controller in with the Oculus, it's quite different to playing on a mobile phone. So I think that's the challenge, getting something that's universal to work on both. But we're kind of just experimenting with that at the moment. We definitely haven't got it right yet, but I think it's about choosing games that suit the controls rather than the other way around. I think we just need to get a bit more inventive with that and think it through a little bit more. But there will be some early versions that you can play with in this next build.
I think we also got asked, I think it was a few AMAs ago, where someone was saying, would it mean that we start seeing an influx of other 2D games coming in, meaning existing ones rather than being built? And I think we already addressed that as well. Bumping this question back up. Who are some of the standout individuals doing Vault walkthroughs? I'm not sure what we're allowed to talk about, which ones we're allowed to talk about and which ones we're not. We've just got, what would you say, Lala, a mix of people coming through that are, I'll let you diplomatically answer it, because you know the conflict.
I think one of my favorites was Erica Lee, and I think some of you have actually read her article from NFT Now. So Erica Lee was one of my favorite because, number one, she's never had a VR headset before, and Vault was 100% her first experience. And if you listen to her voice in the recordings that we do have, she's excited and she's kind of like fascinated by everything. I think Phil and I were like, okay, interesting. And she was really a breath of fresh air. Like, we've been getting a lot of VR guys, but this is someone who is a fresh set of eyes. And she wrote a really good article about it. I really encourage you guys to read through it. And I think it's even more amazing because when we got the data back, she actually jumped in a couple more times after the walkthrough. So yeah, she's definitely one of the standouts for me, because it's nice to see someone who's not even VR native, is like a totally new user in every shape, way, and form. And she's awesome. Can we have permission to share her recordings? I do have to ask her, because the recordings was basically for her to use for her team and herself, but I'll double check with that. But I'll try get the snippets of when she says ooh, and wow and everything, because it was really adorable for me. I'm not sure whether Phil has any favorites, but another one I guess would be Lucifer M Star. So he was also really, really nice as well. Actually, predominantly we've always had good experiences. I think Ben has been in a few, and yeah, those are the ones I like. And yeah, pretty
Lala
much.
just made the deal with
the devil. His name's
devil.
Leo. I was like, I kept on calling him Lucifer. But yeah,
The one thing that I think has surprised me, and I've learned in the more recent past is that we obsess a lot about making sure that things are stable, and we obsess a lot about trying to get rid of bugs and trying to make sure that certain things are a certain way. And I think it's really good that you do get people coming in and giving you views externally, because they'll sort of say that one thing that you might not be as focused on is more important and another thing isn't. But the big surprise for me was learning from a testing group during the week that the things that we thought were bugs, that we were like, you know, this is doing something weird, or this is doing something weird, was something that people thought was really cool. That it was, you know, you want to say, hey, come and look at this, or do this, or try this, and see what happens. And it's kind of funny, because if you think about it and stop and think about it, when we do staff testing and we all go in there, we also get great enjoyment out of finding something that acts in a peculiar way or whatever, and exploiting that to the point where it's we're jumping around like a bunch of kids and doing nothing but exploiting that stuff. But it is the discovery side of things, and you know, being able to get in there with a group of people and feeling like you own the place, spending some time in a district or an area is still a pretty luxurious thing, because a lot of the platforms that have like ginormous, going to a crowded mall or something like that. So yeah, I think we get some pretty good perspectives from people walking through as well, because they do view things very differently than people that are actually building and grinding on a daily basis to try and make this perfect in our eyes. Phil?
Oh, it's hard to say, because I I don't really remember anyone's names, but two that stand out for me was Lala. Do you remember the guy who was 60, retired?
Wait, it's not pirate. Was it pirate? Pirate Yo Ho Ho?
Pirate, yeah.
Yeah, Pirate Yo Ho Ho. That was a nice name to have.
So he actually, we had a hell of a time getting him on. But after that whole process, he seemed to have really enjoyed the vault, and like he was saying that it's kind of like a leveler for geriatrics and special needs people to come in to the vault, right? It would be a good place for them to hang out, where age is no longer a factor, or disabilities are no longer a factor. So I thought that was interesting. And then Lala, who's the kid who was teaching us all like the VR tricks to get behind the bar and
Tribe Wolves.
Tribe Wolves? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny, because
It
he's kind of I guess kind of like a VR hacker.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was teaching us some pretty weird stuff.
Part of the reason why I jump into everything nowadays is because of what he was doing that day, which has been fun.
Yeah. But honestly, I think we have a load more walkthroughs coming up, and we've had I guess conversations before the walkthrough. I think there's some really cool ones coming up that have a good idea of how they want to use the tech. So I'm excited about those future walkthroughs.
I think also the fun ones are people that have like just weird stuff going on. Luke, you remember that one that was almost like the dude got his head inside of the. Do you remember when he actually got his head inside of the vault, and it was like he was being birthed or something, and he's saying, "I can't." Do you remember that?
That was a good one.
I laughed so hard. And I thought I was actually going to piss myself. His head just poked through, and he's going, "I can't push through. I'm trying to get in." And it looked like it reminded me of that scene from The Brothers Grimm or whatever, where the dude's been birthed in a cow. Gosh, that cracked me up. There's been some pretty funny stuff that happens where you have to really quickly find your mute button on your headset because people do some goofy stuff.
It's always fun.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
It's always good fun.
There's always one. It is always good fun. They're actually awesome to do. Okay, so we're out of time, guys. Any last questions before we call it a week?
I just have one last add-on before we all disperse. Basically, I do understand that some of you guys are up pretty late, and the team aren't necessarily up because sometimes we are like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I do sleep kind of late, but sometimes I do miss certain things. So in our support channel, there is a new step for you guys to raise any tickets. If, say, for example, none of us are awake during a certain period or a certain time. Of course, if we can manage whatever, we would definitely be there for you guys. But this is just in case if there's something like really graveyard hour for our side. So it's just an alternative for now. We'll see how it goes. And if you guys need help, just check out the support channel. We'll definitely be looking into everything that goes through there. Yep, that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody who attended and for the team answering all those questions. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the demo conversation as well, and that gives you some understanding of where this could potentially go. So have an awesome week, guys. Always great to talk to you all, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night, guys. See ya.
Cheers, everybody.